Be the water finding its own way around the rocks. Never become modified or let them put you in a box. 'Cause you know you hold so much more. Be the fire burning, won't you ever let it cease? Know that you and only you will be the cure.
Sally Sharp-Paulsen here to Moccasin Tracks.
Yes.
With your friends Rick and Deb and Carolyn. Let me give you just a little bit of a say hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn. It's great to see you.
And crisp air.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, colorful, but not quite as red and fuchsia as other years have been. We've got a lot of gold going on and the yellow colors, But
yeah, we've got it's autumn here. It's very nice when it's not too soggy, and you can really see we've got a lot of red going on here though, so I'll have to take some pictures and send them along to you.
Yeah.
It was it was great to be invited. It was Rick told me that y'all been talking about little people, and of course that usually makes you think of me. And so
I didn't even say anything about that, Sally.
no. But it's just a natural progression to little people. Yeah.
Yeah, we were visiting some stories from the Haudenosaunee, who rarely talk about the little people, but they've got some great stories that have seeped out over time, and so we got to read a little bit about that. There's a real respect, I think, between tribal peoples about the legends. How are the stories received in Norway? I was wondering, is it really popular?
Well, we have, Norway is very rich in folklore. And our, say the people we would call the little people, they're called nisser, they're elves. And so, we have, there's a lot of stories about nisser. And usually they'll live in the barn. Or they'll live around, and if you're very kind to them, they'll help you with chores and things. But don't get on their bad side because, I know, just from being a little person, don't mess with the little people. They'll mess you up.
Yeah, it's the same here. There's the whole idea that they create a little bit of chaos, but on the mischievous side, not to be like hurting people, but to be mischievous. Is that the kind of sense that you get from the elves?
Yes, usually it's they just let you know that they're not happy. They'll maybe tie knots in the horse's mane up end buckets, and but they can really but if they're being dealt with cruelly, they can be very cruel in return. But you have to, if for the most part, if you're hospitable to them, they'll help you out.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, one thing is if you find a little person in the forest and it jumps up in the palm of your hand and starts singing, do not, and I repeat, do not start clapping.
Oh no, that can be a real mess. That could be a tragedy.
No.
I'm going to stop jumping into people's palms.
I would recommend it.
That just doesn't turn out well at all. Well, if you can tell me, I thought it would be interesting to hear because, we know, of course, say the Western, the European version of elves, but I thought it would be really fascinating to hear about native little people.
Yeah, we just shared a story about hunters, and it's interesting because the different tribes have like different stories and different ways of like looking at the animals and stuff. So, but I don't know, maybe we could read another story. This one's called Two Nations. You want to read this one? Rick's going to read a story from the book.
Oh, terrific. Yeah.
All right. This is called Two Nations. Arthur Parker summarized the three types of little people as those who deal with hunting, those who work with natural cycles, and those who come most to people. Those categories may have been superseded. In the 1950s, Edmund Wilson conjectured that only two nations of little people were appearing in the lore and report of his mostly... One moment. I can't turn the page. There's a little person grabbing it. Appearing in the lore and the reports of his mostly Tuscarora confidence. Wilson broke them down into healers and tricksters. Without directly confirming these categories, Michael Bastine generally backs the two-tribe impression among today's reservation folk. One branch of little people, presumably Wilson's healers, has only goodwill. These smallest of the fairy folk, only a few inches high, are preservers of the natural environment and all life in it. They are by far the strongest of the little people and can protect humans from the others if they choose. Full-sized living people almost never see them anymore. The larger kind, a foot or two in height, are likely to be Wilson's tricksters. They are the type people most often report. Small enough to be miraculous, but too big to be stepped on without notice. You'll see this kind on the road once in a while and at the edge of the woods. These may be the ones whose artifacts and even body parts are kept in a few very private collections. They are not always good-willed. These are the ones who come to people in dreams, making their hearts race. They are the ones who come to children. It's hard to be sure where the little people are we hear about fit into the classic categories of literature: hunters, stone throwers, and plant growers. We don't seem to be hearing from hunters anymore. If what's left are healers and tricksters, well and good, but today's tricksters are playing rough.
They got that Ernest T. Bass thing going on with throwing rocks, and you just got to be really careful. That's fascinating. We have, I think that they have pretty much the same reputation worldwide. You have the tricksters, and you have the helpers. As in Norwegian culture, we have they're called nisser, and they have little pointed hats. Sometimes they report to not have thumbs. I don't know what that's about. Yeah. But also we have talked about, Deb and I exchanged a few messages about the Sami people, who are, of course, very similar to the Native Americans. And in Samiland, they'll have something called the Sedas, and those are like altars where you have they can be wood. They're usually an unusual stone, and that's where, say, the elves and spirits gather. And every community has one, so it's a bit like a Shinto shrine, I guess. And so they have quite a few there. And then now there are still, what's interesting is that, of course, they're relegated to folklore for the most part, in most of the Western nations. But in Iceland, they respect their elves. They will not build a road that goes through elf territory. They'll detour it. That's Iceland. Respect the elves. When I was in Ireland, and then in Ireland, I was in Ireland a few years ago, and taking a bus tour, and we were passing by farms, and there were trees. Some of the trees had rocks around them, and the tour guide said, if you see a tree with rocks around them, just avoid them. Don't mess with them, because those are portals.
Oh.
And yeah, still today, there are certain cultures that still respect, their other people.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting that the rocks are around trees, or You often hear about circles, fairy circles or things like that. You're in the woods and you come across circles of stone.
Mushrooms, or mushrooms.
Mushrooms,
Fairy
yeah.
room.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so we still have people who, do believe in, and in Iceland too, I think I've seen they'll actually sometimes build little houses for them in the hills.
Wow.
I wonder if they have craft meetings, like on a Sunday, they sell crafts in the meadow.
Oh yeah, maybe crafts or a bake. Our Santa Claus is not Saint Nick. He's Julenisse. He's the Christmas elf, and he isn't. Even though there are reindeer here in Norway, they don't. Our Santa Claus doesn't rely on reindeer to get along around. He's a little guy who goes around on skis. And, so instead of leaving milk and cookies, you leave porridge in the barn.
Porridge in the barn.
Yeah. And if you don't do that, then, he might get upset and, cause some trouble.
I was serving meats on skewers at a restaurant around Christmas time, and there were about 8 little children in the restaurant, and they started pointing at me and going, Santa Claus, Santa Claus. And so I was walking around serving meats from table to table, and they were following me. And are you ready for this? They're following me, and they're chanting, we want a pony, we want a pony, we want a pony. It was hilarious.
Yeah, well, you being native, I'm sure that you could have provided a pony. You know where the ponies are.
Yep.
Well, yeah, the same thing has happened with Halvard. He's gotten a lot of, people, kids thinking that, he's Santa Claus.
Oh, yes, he's great.
And of course, yeah, if you got a white beard, that's it. You are, you're recruited every Christmas. In whatever group. So get that hat ready, Rick.
I was just going to ask you, Sally, if there was a myth or a legend that you knew that you might want to share with our listeners today.
Well, let's see. I can tell one about since we've been talking about little people, but let's not ignore the big folks. Of course, Norway is the land of trolls.
Mm-hmm.
And a troll, now a lot of people, they think about those, little troll dolls. But the actual trolls, they're very interesting characters. They're huge and they're not very bright and they are very mean. But if the sunlight, if they're out and the sunlight hits them, they turn into rock. And so they say that the mountains are trolls that have gotten hit with sunlight, and the fir trees on their backs, or the fir trees are, the hair on their backs.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's the troll. But the thing is, though, is that they also have you have the troll. Troll is also a concept, because if you have, say, the troll, if like a troll woman or a troll man is a sorcerer or a sorceress, and of course they're very wise. So it usually has to do with trolldom. It means magic. So it looks like there's, two kinds of troll. It's either magic, or you have these big, rather stupid characters. Now, I'll tell a story. There is, I'm trying to remember because I haven't read it. I haven't read it recently, but it involves, we have a character in folklore called Askeladdin, which translates to ash lad, ash boy. And he's, very poor, but he gets by. He's very resourceful. And there's something where he gets kidnapped by a troll, and so he says, can you is something to do with, can you do this? And Askeladdin has his knapsack on his lap, and the troll doesn't realize that it's a sack. He's just, he thinks it's part of Askeladdin's stomach, and he takes a knife and he cuts open the knapsack. Well, of course, the troll, being very stupid, takes the knife and just, cuts open his own stomach and dies.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. But
Wow.
you have, there's, I guess I should have read some, some more stories. But you often have trolls that have 3 heads or 12 heads.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of tourist items have to do with trolls.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
12 heads.
Yeah, and not a brain in one of them. Yeah. So there are a lot of really amusing stories about trolls, and the elves. It's usually the same. If you help them, they'll help you. Now, of course, it seems like I've been thinking a lot about small people or little people of different cultures, and of course, in Scotland, you have brownies.
Oh, yeah.
They dress in brown, and they're house elves. They, help. And of course, that makes me think of, before you're a Girl Scout, you're a Brownie Scout. Oh, I was a Brownie Scout.
Yeah, yeah.
Did I help clean the house? No.
In a little bit that I've read, they sometimes, the little people are very skillful, and they make beautiful art, and what they wear, the regalia that they make, and beadwork, and some of the things that we see Native people making today, the art, traditional kinds of art, and they're very good at it. And moccasins, and all these all this regalia that they would make. Are there any of your elves talented in that way?
That I know that they're good at doing things around the barn and the house. I'm trying to remember if there's any kind of art, but that does make me think of well, the James M. Barrie story Peter Pan. Tinkerbell was called Tinkerbell not because of, she made that, ting-a-ling-a-ling sound. It was because she was in the book, a tinker fairy. And a tinker, just fixing pots and pans and doing things that a tinker does. A common fairy, is somebody who would be, And I think that it would be interesting to see, if there are any legends of small people who, say, make things and then, perhaps give them as gifts or, teach the way that they do things.
Yeah, right. That would be, that's kind of the impression that I got from some of the stories that I read, that the little people were actually teaching the human beings, how to make things. So it was kind of cool.
Yes, they're also in, I know that in, it's mostly like, say, the Celtic countries, Scotland, Ireland, you really have the fairies. And they're sometimes often called the good people, and that seems to be more of a hope that they will be good and not cause trouble. But they, yes, they have stories of say, it was now there is a certain amount of fear associated with the fairy realm. You've probably heard about stories about maybe somebody enters their realm and then when they come back, it's it was only like an hour there, but they come back and it's many years later.
Yeah.
Now, it was thought that iron would repel fairies. So if a baby was born, they would put iron in the baby's crib to repel, so that the baby would be safe because, of course, you had changelings. Because for whatever reason, the fairies would come and replace, take the baby and replace it with one of theirs. One thing that's rather chilling is that oftentimes disabled people in the old days were thought to be changelings and were treated very horribly.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. Rick, I remember you sharing a teaching about fire keeping and keeping the metal out of the ceremonial fire.
Yeah.
What do you think was with that? I mean,
well, I was taught as a traditional fire keeper that metal in a fire deflects good spirits. So that I was told not to put metal in a fire, like like even like a metal mini fence to keep against the rocks. You're not supposed to do that.
But here in this case, the metal was used to protect the baby. So
yes, or maybe it could be that it was, some say that fairies are repelled by metal, but it could also be that they would just take the gift and, say, leave the baby. It's sort of thought that because, in Scotland, some early people were the Picts, who were small, tend to be small and dark, and were still and used iron arrowheads. So there could be, and then they were pushed back by the Celts, and they lived in burrows. So that could have given rise to this notion of of them being fairy people. And I remember I was reading a book that was set in Scotland where this young policeman goes to interview a shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper is small and dark, and the policeman has just a moment of fear because the shopkeeper looked the way that fairy people were supposed to look, small and dark. Although in a lot of stories they're not necessarily small. they can be very large. They can be very beautiful. They can be hideous. But what we think of as fairies, sort of the Tinkerbell fairy, the sort of the Victorian depiction, was nothing like the early fairies.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yay. Oh.
So have either of you ever seen one?
No,
Well,
I haven't.
Years ago, many years ago, probably about at least over 30 years ago, I was asked to draw 3 large posters of the little people from a Wabanaki perspective. And in the Wabanaki stories of the little people, they glide around in canoes, stone canoes, I think, if I'm right. But there are many tribal people who certainly attest to having witnessed them. And these are elders, and I know someone who actually goes to a site where they thought they saw one, or maybe they did see one, and she gives them little gifts that she puts in the underbrush. There's a certain kind of seashell. They're very little, and they're on the shores of Lake Champlain in northern Vermont. And she would often collect some of those and bring them to them.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually if you're going to leave any gifts, they do like gifts of sweets or coins or shells. So it sounds like the the stories are pretty consistent, maybe the world over. It would be interesting to, for Chris North and I have been putting together quite a bit of music, and it's been going very well. So we'll have some.
Wow.
Everything is varied, and it's we're really happy with everything that's being done, and so we're moving along. And so as soon as there's something to share, believe me, I can't wait to share it with you, and it'll be wonderful. We've been really enjoying this, and so. Everything is, each piece is different, which is something that we've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. Are you writing a lot of the lyrics, or?
Yes. There's he's had some, he's also an excellent lyricist. So he's written some, and then I've written some, and then I've pulled some out of the archives that I've had for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And so it's wonderful to breathe life into them. And I've been having a few, technical problems today. So, of course, that always happens. But I guess Mercury is just in stupid grade. But we're,
Mercury.
I'm just going to blame it on Mercury. And so, but we're rolling along, and everything seems to be, there'll be some things to share very soon.
Excellent.
Wow.
Good
I
for
can't
you.
wait. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. We enjoyed your songs. Last time we talked to you, we played them. And, really wonderful.
I'd like to hear how about your own artistic endeavors. Deb, Rick, Carol, and there's I know there's always something going on. It's always very exciting. What's happening with you folks?
Well, just putting together our guest list and keeping the show rolling along, keeping on the airwaves is really fun. We have music coming at us from a lot of world beat stuff. We have some musicians lined up for next month, going to come in, share with us some live music for our listeners. That is always fun. And we love, recognizing and acknowledging different genres, all produced and written by Native American people, but, from different parts of the country, because there are over, I want to say 580 federally recognized tribes in the US of A. So, and each one, they have their special ceremonies and music that goes along with their ceremonies. So there's a lot to preview all the time. So that keeps us busy. And yeah, we got
That's fantastic.
yeah.
And I've been keeping up with things. It's been probably the busiest summer and fall that I've had. Also, as you know, the Jokers. My son has been in this band. The Jokers it's made up of people with disabilities. It's called. There's something called Dissimilis. It's the disabled in the arts, and from October 1st up through the 8th, we went to Spain. There's a resort that's especially for the disabled and disabled in the arts. There's a lot of projects and workshops. And since our lead singer moved away, so I've been doing the singing for them. So it's been a very music time. And very exciting.
Wow,
It's been a wonderful thing, and so I'm just really glad that so much is coming together.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Rick is doing his. He's drawing, and so it sounds like every day something creative every day.
Well, I also want to say, Carolyn has become quite the DJ here. That it's amazing. She picks the most exciting music and has wonderful segues. And she's become ace at the soundboard. So
that's fantastic.
It is fantastic. And she and Deb have a radio show here on Saturdays of world music.
Yeah, it's really been fun.
That's great. And that brings back a good memory. My dad, a long time ago, he was doing some music reviews for a magazine. And one of his, he was doing, it was blues rock mostly and world music. And so he was really enjoying that. And he'd get these free CDs and then he'd give them to me.
Cool.
Great. Well, it paid off.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's just, but it's kudos to Carolyn for that takes a lot of precision. But of course, she's very good at this, and so we appreciate everything that she's doing. You're doing.
When we do a show, I enjoy just sitting here listening to the music she picks out, and it just flows into one another, and makes me want to get out of my chair and dance.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, okay. Well, why don't you, Richmond? Well, come on. Let's see. Well, the thing is that she's so great at choosing songs that they flow together. So there's almost like a theme for every show.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Carolyn.
Well, we only have a couple more minutes. So is there a message for our listeners that you'd like to share all the way from Norway today?
Yes, look out for trolls. Be respectful of the little people and keep on listening to Deb, Rick, and Carolyn on Moccasin Tracks. And thank you so much for having me again.
And don't forget to pay at the troll booths.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You can slug me, Deb, if you want.
Well, you can tell dad jokes, Rick. I mean, if you are a dad, so you can tell the dad. Well,
Well,
it's wonderful to be with you, and I hope that this has been just as much fun for you guys.
Oh, yes.
oh
It's
yeah.
always great to see you.
Yeah, this has been a fun topic. We're still learning and, and reaching out. And there's a couple more books I want to get a hold of to share with the listeners. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your stories today, Sally.
Oh, thank you for having me. Next time I'll make sure that I have maybe some stories prepared.
All
Well,
right, cool.
I think it's awesome that your musical odyssey is continuing to roll.
Can't wait to hear the new music. All
Oh,
right.
thank you so much. And, like I said, I think we're all artistically honest, and I'm so looking forward to seeing, all that'll unfold from each one of you, together and individually.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
rock on. Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
rock on. We'll stay in touch, and it's been an honor to have you on the air with us today, Sally.
Absolutely.
I'll be with you.
Please
All right.
give my love to your family and everyone, and have some
thank
for
you, and love
yourself,
to
please.
you, and to you and all of yours, and enjoy October.